Okay. Hey Kimleng, thank you so much for having a look at this. I'm going to show you our paper prototype and try to explain what it is I'm driving at. And obviously, like, there's a stage process to this, so like some of the linking or syncing with external providers or whatever might be not a necessary thing to do initially, but you also might come up with a clever way to do it. So I actually suspect that there might be a way to do the concept as almost like a 3D modeling game as a Minecraft, but you might have a better format that would work better, be easier to do. So I'm going to talk while I show you, and I use my finger to point to the pieces, and hopefully that works for you. Okay, so let's just pretend for a minute that this thing here is our game structure, and it's cool if it's 3D because ideally if you can pretend that sort of this circle or those ones that are drawn on, or this one here, if you can imagine them as islands or potential mountains like landscapes or topographies, and I don't know if you can see here clearly, but there's different pieces here like this, and each of them represent a different part of the learning experience for our kids. So the idea is that the whole mat here acts as a sort of a map. It'd be really cool if you could drag and drop in a background that you like maybe I want to put water in and you want to put a desert in, but it doesn't really matter. Here's our little avatar. So again, like ideally, it'd be really cool if we could, change features of avatars, but not a mandatory feature. And the idea is that the pieces then become like a 3D modeled landscape feature that gets added on as you complete different parts of your learning. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that would just repeat. So they could technically be 3D modeled, and if there's a feature where the kid can like make them wider or skinny or whatever, that's fine as long as they can be fit together quite easily. And then the other part of it would need 3D modeling of a different type, or it could even be a same piece, and then we would just have color locking properties so that we can color lock in some of our other educational properties. I'm not going to go into the detail of the educational bits because that'll be boring to you. I'm just trying to focus on the game bits. So the idea is that you've got this avatar, and that every time they do a project, don't worry about classes, every time they do a project, they have to go through this learning sequence. And as they complete different stages on the learning sequence, their island of their project gets built to show the depth of their thinking. And other pieces can get fit in to make this bigger. So if I tilted my mat, for example, like you can on like a CAD program like Tinkercad, you could actually see how high it was or how many layers they had. So here, for example, I've got yellow layers. Those yellow represent some of our values. So that particular color built into that person's mountain would basically represent an achievement that they've made through that particular project. So the little thing that she's holding here, we've called the passports or the badges. So, technically, how I was talking about Credly, for example, as an open source badge provider, so you wouldn't even have to do the modeling of the badges. We could technically still use Credly as long as when you click on, so if I'm if my finger's the mouse or the cursor, I click on my passports or my badges, and then that could open up to, say, for example, a link that's not actually a part of the game, if you know what I mean, and it just opens their badge set. That might be an easier way to do it rather than trying to actually sync with Credly, and it opens their badge set, which is something that I can just design myself, whether it's on Prezi or whether they put it onto a LinkedIn profile or whatever. So if that's possible to embed an external link within a game feature, that could be a way of doing it really easily. And then similarly, sorry, my hand's getting tired. Similarly, within each of the layers here, if I zoomed in, so I think one of the possibly one of your design features for the game would be you'd need to have the ability to zoom in micro and zoom out macro quite a lot, and that would be so that this particular modeled piece right here, ideally I would be able to then embed within the model a link to an external site. So you know how you can open up your sharing settings within Google Drive? So let's say you had a 3D modeled piece, and the 3D modeled piece has the potential to, when you zoom in, so like when you zoom in on Prezi, you can, like there's infinite zoom in capability. So if I've got like this 3D modeled piece and it's representative of my learning, I could actually like put the links into the 3D model piece to click on that goes to my evidence, which is actually just stored in my drive under an open setting or limited setting. It doesn't really matter. So that's sort of the idea. So basically, we'd want the kids to be able to work with their teachers to create almost like a Minecraft world that is like a physical representation of their learning and links to their evidence of learning. And then that game actually functions as our assessment resource, our reporting, and the foundation of how we have conversations with kids, if that makes sense. Obviously, you can ask any questions. The badges would be a bonus if they could be embedded in the game, but I understand like the complications of syncing with something that's open source and limited like that, but they are, I think, Creative Commons licensed. So, I mean, linking to somewhere where we could actually embed them that's already compatible would actually just be fine too, because realistically getting them to do sort of a LinkedIn profile, for example, where you can embed the Credly badges would be something that's completely usable in the world as well. If I count up how many pieces we would need, like how many 3D modeled objects, if I quickly do some math and look at the board. So you have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every mountain is going to have 5, but the pieces can be the same and the same shape, and that's fine because they're just going to be reused over and over again. The biggest difference between them being the links that get embedded. So like this mountain here, the pieces are actually the same pieces that are used here, but the links that get put or tagged to the object are different. And then similarly, the ones that are different colors or can be color coded to represent different aspects of our assessment, technically they can be the same shape as long as you can build them up and down. So that is essentially how it looks. And then these bits here, if we can draw in roads somehow. I don't know, I think it's sort of like a, I think the Minecraft, like the 3D modeling type of game is possibly like the easiest way to do something like this, because you could do it with limited pieces and then also focus on developing like your range of avatar changeable bits or setting backgrounds over time, like starting off limited and then expanding them as you go. And I actually, between you and I think, like we said, it's probably quite marketable as well if it's successful. So you are more than welcome to pass this on to your mate, and if you've got any questions, get in touch and we can talk about it further, or if you've got a better idea or a platform or a game premise that you think would fit the concept better, that would be cool too. So we'll be in touch. Thank you heaps. Bye-bye.